All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Deonna Britt. I am an attorney based here in Atlanta, Georgia, but I assist with business formation really in every state, right? And so we're going to kind of go over these things. You guys know I serve as the attorney for REI USA, a job that I take very serious. And I have been partnered with this organization all year long and partnered even back when Stacy was running South Atlanta REIA. So I really understand your concerns as investors, as real estate professionals. And so we are going to go over just our different business entities because I think that a lot of people get them confused. We have a lot of bad information because people are, I know you guys talk on Facebook and Instagram and in chats, and unfortunately, the advice that one investor has received for their business is not the same advice that would apply to another investor, right? And so we want to make sure that we are truly getting advice that is unique to our businesses. Even our agreements need to be unique and tailored to our businesses, okay? So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so remember, we're gonna kind of go over things high level today. But of course, if you need legal advice for your business, definitely reach out to me. I'm gonna make my information available. All you have to do is I'm super active on Instagram. So all you have to do is click the link in my bio and you can schedule a free 15-minute discovery call with my firm. So it could be me or a member of my team. And then we're able to kind of deep dive your situation and really be able to answer questions, okay? But this is going to be more high level, going over what things mean so that we can clarify some things, all right? So who am I? I'm originally from Stamford, Connecticut, a real small state at the top of the map, but somebody's got to represent the state, so that's what I do when I can. And I'm a proud graduate of Hampton University, so if you went to Hampton, please let me know in the chat so you can get 100% off today. I'm just kidding, but I do like to know who my Hampton family is. I graduated from Hampton, and I went to law school in cold, bluesy Michigan, okay? There was nothing to do but study and study some more. Maybe that's just what I needed, okay? And then when I graduated law school, I moved to Atlanta. Okay, your husband went to Hampton. Well, send your husband, tell him Hampton love, Hampton hugs, because we are like family out here and we love opportunities to let each other know that we all graduated from the same school. So yeah, graduated from Hampton University, went to law school in Michigan. So listen, if you want to contact me, this is my information, or you can contact me on Instagram. So Deonna Britt Law. If you click the links in my bio, there are like so many goodies and freebies that are available. They're deliberately put there for professionals like yourself. So you literally can go there and grab the business formation checklist, since that's what I'm going to be talking about today. If you click the link in my bio, there'll be a recap, in my opinion, of the things that you need as a professional from a legal perspective, just a checklist, okay? It's not all inclusive, but you can grab that information. So here's my name, phone number, business formation checklist. You'll type in bit.ly/LCOD-biz, and you can grab the checklist. So you literally can grab that right now, totally free, okay? And then here's my email, admin@lawclerkondemand.com. Law Clerk on Demand is one of my companies. My firm is Britt Law Group. And then you can reach out to me. My Instagram just changed to my name, Deonna Britt Law. And then you can Twitter, website, all that good stuff, okay? But literally, if you go over to my Instagram, Deonna Britt Law, click the links in my bio, I come right up, okay? Cool. All right, so what's my experience? So over the last couple of years, I have literally been teaching all over Georgia, teaching real estate, investors, professionals, you name it. I've been teaching business law like I'm gonna cover today, teaching probate, teaching real estate marketing, because with Law Clerk on Demand, we saw so many people would get the list and they didn't know what to do with them once they got it. right? Teaching for REI USA, and now I'm REI USA's lawyer. Georgia RIA, Atlanta RIA, Georgia Women's RIA, Flipping America, you name it, okay? Groups all over the US and Georgia, all over Georgia. I had the honor of being a TEDx speaker, and that video just went live on YouTube. So you just type my name in and the TEDx pops up. I've had the chance to teach at Hampton University, and then now I am an instructor for Kennesaw State University teaching law, okay? So let's jump right in. So why do we need protection? Okay, we want to avoid contractual liability. Okay, we want to protect our assets by creating a wall between us and the business assets, right? And we want to start our business off and on the right foot, and we want to protect ourselves from lawsuits. Okay, so a lot of folks feel like, let me make a little money, then I'm going to do my first, start my LLC or form a business entity or have that conversation. And quite frankly, that's really, really bad advice. There are some coaches, I love you guys, but I don't agree with that advice to tell people to even start their marketing without having an entity in place, okay? There are people who are getting sued, right? I know firsthand there are people that are getting sued for text message marketing, for sending, you name it. And you don't want to put yourself in jeopardy because you're doing business as a person instead of being an entity, even when you're marketing. So you may feel like, hey, I haven't even made any money yet. Why should I pay for an entity? And so we want to protect ourselves from the onset. When you decide you want to do a business, let's just have the conversation now and protect ourselves, okay? So a couple business entities we're going to go over today is sole proprietorships, limited liability companies, partnerships, corporations. We're going to go over them very high level. Remember that when choosing an entity, this is specific to your situation, to your business, right? We already started off with some questions about, I typically get questions about holding companies and series LLCs and all these different entities, but my answer is going to be unique to my conversation with you, right? That's what a legal consultation is for. So if you ask me on social media or you ask me real quick on a Zoom chat, my answer is going to be high level because quite frankly, I don't know you and your business yet, right? But once we have a consultation, we would talk about this and then select the correct entity for you. So sole proprietorships, okay, so we talk about the structure of this. So liability-wise, the business owner is liable for the business debts. Management is going to be done by one owner, and the business is not taxed separate from the owner. All right. The entity is appropriate for one owner, and the business does not require additional employees and cannot be an entity that requires a professional license. So what does this mean? Well, this is going to be appropriate for somebody that's not super concerned about personal liability, right? Because you don't have the same protection that you would have if you had a limited liability company. So if you're operating as a sole proprietorship, this is not offering you the protection that you think it is. And so it's really important that we just go ahead and go do the next step to form an entity so that you are protected. Okay. And if you guys have any questions, you can just post them and I'll get to them at the end. But I want to make sure that you guys can get all of the overview in the allotted time. Okay. So moving from the sole proprietorship to the limited liability company, now we're saying the members of this LLC are not personally liable for the debts of the LLC. So we've created this wall between the members of the LLC and the actual entity, right? So when you're signing your agreements are going to indicate your LLC and that you are a member or manager of that LLC. The LLC, the limited liability company, is going to be less requirements than a corporation because in a limited liability company, you do not have to document your meetings and minutes the way that you will with a corporation when we go over that next, okay? But your responsibility is your annual state registration. A lot of mistakes, believe it or not, that I see with entrepreneurs, you guys get so busy running your company that you forget to keep up with things. And honestly, every state is different. Some states are going to require you every single year. You're going to pay $50, $100 and pay that, pay your registration fee, right? And then there's other states where you have additional requirements, right? But it's your responsibility after your business is formed to keep everything up to date and to make sure that you're updating this information. I mean, that you're keeping up with this information to remain compliant. Okay. Also, with your limited liability company, the management is going to be governed by an operating agreement, and we're going to deep dive into operating agreements in a moment. But your operating agreement is going to determine how this business runs. Like, these are the rules and regulations for this business. It's going to document everything, and it's flexible. Like, you're going to be able to continuously update your operating agreement, so it's not a one and done. Also, it is going to be uniquely tailored to you and your business, right? Finally, in regard to taxation, all your profits are going to pass through the members, okay? And your members are going to pay the federal income and the self-employment tax on their share of the profits, okay? So this is great protection for owners who want the protection from liability without the formation of the corporation. So, I mean, as recent as a few days ago, there was this debate. Should I have a limited liability company? Should I have a corporation? I think that's a personal decision for you as a business owner. However, just understand that when you select corporation, you are saying, I understand all of the things that I'm responsible for with a corporation. Okay. And it is very, very formal. It's a lot of work, even as an attorney, to set up in a corporation. So it's going to be a lot of work on your end. And for a lot of people, you know, if you have less than 100 members in your company, you may be just fine with the limited liability company, and there's no reason to take on these extra requirements. But again, that's a personal decision that we're not going to get from social media. We're not going to get from our friends. We're going to get directly from a one-on-one conversation with an attorney. Okay. All right. Now, a lot of people will ask me about the S Corp. They say, hey, oh, Deonna, I don't want an LLC. I want an S Corp. So this is the thing. So when you form your entity on a legal level, you're forming an LLC. But what you're asking for is the S Corp tax election, right? And I'm going to go over this just so you understand what it is. But this is a conversation that you have with your CPA or EA to decide when it's time to make this tax election, okay? Based on you and the money that your business is bringing in, not what your friends are saying in real estate, okay? So the S Corp is a tax election where the company is taxed like a sole proprietorship or a partnership when there are two or more shareholders and the company does not pay tax, but profits are passed to shareholders. And it's reported on the individual tax returns, and it means that there are less than 100 members who are individual shareholders that are US citizens and have only one class of stock, okay? So what this means is you want to, once your LLC is formed, or you can have this conversation before you form your LLC, but you want to have your conversation with your CPA and say, okay, is it time for me to make this tax election? Is it time for me to indicate that this is how I want to be taxed? How you want to be taxed and what business entity you select are two different things, right? That may affect each other, right? But you want to have a conversation with your tax professional and your lawyer, right? Not one or the other, not listen to pieces of stuff. We want to make these decisions together and work hand in hand, right? And in fact, I have CPA and tax professionals that will reach out to me and say, hey, this is what I've advised this person. Hey, this is what, or people will come to me after that meeting and say, hey, I'm trying to avoid tax implications. So this is why I want to be structured this particular way. I think that that's fair. And then I can tell you what to do legally. Right? But this is something, it's a very delicate thing because when you make these selections on the Secretary of State website, you are held accountable for what you select. But the S Corp conversation is a tax conversation. Okay? Did I clear that up? Tell me in the chat. Because y'all be out here arguing about the LLC and the S Corp. And are we talking taxes or are we talking business structuring? Right? Let me know if that cleared it.
Yes. Everybody's happy so far.
Thank you, Stacy. I know it's a hot topic. You know, I'm a lawyer that hangs out with real estate professionals such as yourselves. So I already know what you're going to say before you say it usually. But yeah, so this CPA question, I think I made that clear, right? Okay, so let's talk about partnerships. Let's talk about partnerships. And this is interesting because a lot of people want to have partnerships with people, right? So legally, one owner is going to have the liability, right? It's a very informal setup. Management is going to be flexible and governed by an agreement. And your taxation is going to be income and losses passed through the partners. Now, here are my thoughts on partnership. I think that an LLC is going to allow you to structure things a lot better. I think that you need very strong agreements when you are, because this comes up in real estate. Maybe you're JVing for one transaction. Okay, fine. But I think that forming an entity, if you're going to have a partner with someone in real estate, let's just go ahead and do an LLC. To structure you doing business with another person, right? So that's what I'm going to say high level. This is typically what I advise folks, so that you have that limited liability company protecting you as you guys do business together for however long you do business together, okay? But what we don't want is for you to be in a partnership with someone and there's no formalities and we're just kind of winging it. Because it comes back to bite you because there's no entity created and you're just two people doing transactions, right? So it makes more sense to just go ahead and create a company, right? So minimal formalities, and this is recommended for those that are not concerned about personal liability, right? If you're not, which I can't think of a lot of situations where you're not going to be concerned about personal liability, but let's say that you were, there's no real risk in what you're doing, you guys making money together, then a partnership may be more appropriate, but not a lot of situations that are going to fall into that category. Okay, so we're probably going to swing more toward the LLC. Let me check in. I see my chat lighting up.
We have one that says, so S Corp is only a tax election, not a business entity.
Correct. If I leave you with anything today, it's that it's a tax conversation. Yep, I see that. Okay, and you guys feel free to put your questions in the chat. Just know the chat moves fast. I think I have a Q&A box, but you can put it in here, and then after I finish going over this information, you'll be able to ask me more questions too. I am going to pick up the pace a little bit due to the time. So corporations, shareholders are not liable for the debts of the corporation, okay? Corporations are a lot more formal, which is why I'm saying slow it down, pump the brakes before you just decide that you're going to do a corporation, because you need to know that you're required for all of this stuff. You are required to have a formal board of directors, shareholder meeting minutes, bylaws, record keeping, right? That's required along with your state registration. So all of these things, depending on your state, are going to be required to be documented. It's going to be managed by your shareholder, board of directors, and officers. So this is a lot of paperwork that you are responsible for, and you do not get to say you don't know. You're also going to be taxed differently, right? You've got the double tax situation. So you're taxed on an entity level when the dividends are distributed, and the dividend is also taxed at the individual level. Okay, so double tax, so payment of federal corporate tax, and members pay tax on any profits that are actually distributed. Okay, so I'm giving you guys kind of what the expectation on the tax level, but before you decide you want to be a corporation, this really needs to be something that you think about and you talk with your CPA about, and just say, and make sure you understand what you're really electing if you select this. Okay. All right, so these are people that it's recommended for folks that are desiring maximum tax and ownership and flexibility combined with liability protection. Okay. Now, I want to go over a couple myths now that we've gone through our entities. You can drop your questions in the chat because we've got time for that. But the first thing, and I kind of touched on it earlier, right? This is the thorn in my side when people say this, right? The new investor that's like, I'll just make more money. I'll wait till I make more money. No, I'm stressing to you, okay? I'm hearing more and more of these stories, especially with regulation regard to text messaging, our marketing. You never know when somebody's going to come after you. And so you don't want them coming after you personally. You want it to affect your business, okay? So we need to have a business in place no matter how much money you've made. We want to avoid contractual liability, okay? When you're entering agreements, the agreements need to be with your company and not with you personally, okay? There's always a possibility that there is liability in the future, okay? That is always possible. And so that investor or coach or whomever that's saying, I did this 15 years ago and I didn't have an LLC, that person doesn't know if they're going to get sued. And many of your coaches are my friends, and I tell them that. Stop telling people that because they don't know, right? In fact, people say if you're in business long enough, it's a strong possibility that someone can try you. So we don't want to do any transactions as a person. It's really, really unpredictable, okay? All right, my corporation is going to provide me with 100% protection. That's another myth, okay, that we are busting right now. That is not true. There's something called piercing the corporate veil, okay? And the purpose of this is to avoid fraud and unfairness. If you commit a tort, right, or something happens that you should have taken care of, you could still be personally liable. If something criminal occurs while you're running your business, you can be personally accountable for what you do while you're running a business. So this is not bulletproof. This is not, I have a corporation and I don't have to worry about anything. You still have to be responsible, right? But the idea is for most transactions, you're going to have some protection, and it's going to be the LLC that's held accountable for any possible issues while you're conducting business, okay? Another myth is that the LLC is too small for your business, okay? And that is not true either, okay? I threw some companies in here like Amazon and Chrysler. There are several large companies that are still LLCs, okay? So there is no reason to think that an LLC is too small for you, okay? But I do understand that there may be strategies that you are now doing based on the income of your company where you may say, okay, I'm ready to move from an LLC to a corporation. Fair, but this is something we want to talk to an attorney about before you make that decision, okay? All right, the people that work for you once you formed your business. A common myth is an employee and independent contractor that decision is up to you, and it's not true. Whenever you're bringing people on to work for you, that decision of your relationship, the court is really going to look at your relationship with that person, and there's a number of factors that are considered before you decide to establish whether that person is an employee or an actual independent contractor. Another thing that I want to address is your registered agents. Okay, so this is where things kind of get a mess because if you do not select a proper registered agent when you're forming your business, your formation will be rejected, okay? I know Georgia can be very particular about this, and this is information that you're required to keep updated every single year. So I think a good rule of thumb is when you pay your annual registration, double check to see if you need to get a new registered agent. Like you can get a registered agent, $99 for the year or something like that, and you'll have a corporation that is literally a corporation or a person who is raising their hand to say, hey, if anything happens with this company, I will receive the mail. I will make sure the owner gets their information, okay? Lawsuits, legal documents, etc. They are raising their hand to say, I will take care of it and I'm responsible for it. And this is why the SOS is so particular about it being done correctly, because failure to have your registered agent information correct, then you can start fighting back about being served or notified correctly, okay? So your registered agent is going to get notice about lawsuits, subpoenas, and other legal matters, okay? It's going to be required for LLCs and corporations as opposed to a partnership or sole proprietorship. So for most of you, you need a registered agent. I would recommend getting a business, just pay for the year, pay the fee, and know that all of your mail and notices are going one place. Also kind of helps you with confidentiality depending on what state you're formed in, because the registered agent is just a corporation. They can't see who owns the property versus, who owns the business. This is coming up, I know comes up a lot with investors because you want to conceal what you own, your businesses, etc. But if you're your own registered agent or you're listing your personal address, people, look up your business and boom, they've got it. You're also going to get a lot of junk in the mail. So when you guys are forming these businesses, make sure that you actually have a business address, right? Preferably like a brick and mortar business address that can receive all of your letters and correspondence. And then you're going to get like solicitations from people who just look that stuff up. So we don't want that to go to your house, right? So we need a business address and we need a registered agent who has a separate address that can receive your correspondence on your behalf. So once again, we're going to make sure it's up to date and do not use a PO box. It's got to be a real address. Okay. If I need to walk in there and sue you, I should be able to do that. You won't be happy, but I will be. Okay, so operating agreements. So operating agreements are so important. I realize that this is probably the most boring part of starting your business, but if we can make it come to life, and let me tell you why, okay? Capital contributions. If you're starting a business with someone and you are investing money, and this is huge, even in real estate, you've got a business partner, you guys are starting an LLC, what have you, and you're investing money. Maybe you pay for the dialer and the other person's paying for the leads, et cetera. All this money that's flowing back and forth to get started. Maybe somebody pays for the website, somebody pays for the first couple months for the building. All of that stuff should be in your operating agreement. So that makes us look at it differently because we're like, oh, I'm documenting things because people get forgetful, right? When it's time to dissolve this business, when it's time to talk about profits, people are going to forget, right? So we want to document the membership interest. Are we 50-50? Do we have a different percentage, a different portion of interest? Any funding that went into this business? How are we managed, right? How do we handle new members to our LLC? How do we handle someone withdrawing, resigning, death, bankruptcy, dissolution? Are we managed by the members or are we going to bring in a manager for this LLC? That should be documented in here. So are we seeing why we're not just Googling an operating agreement? Because it's not going to be unique to your business, right? And so I'm really passionate about you guys investing to get this done correctly. Voting and decision making, ownership percentage, per capita, unanimous, like how do we make decisions within our company? Profit and loss, transferring interest, which we kind of talked about a little bit, whether it's a current member transferring or a non-member, etc. All of these things are super, super important. Same thing, we were talking about contractors and employees. If you're going to have contractors that work for you, invest in getting a good independent contractor agreement, right? It's going to talk about this is how long you're here. This is what I'm hiring you to do. This is how much I'm going to pay you. These are the payment terms, how I'm going to pay you. And I think the length of the relationship is super important so people understand that I'm hiring you to do one thing or you're going to be here for a seasonal amount of time, but you're not an employee of my company, right? So when we're forming our business, good to get these agreements in place so that we are not fumbling to get this together or just getting it from somewhere generic and it's not really protecting what you've created. Okay. Other things to consider in independent contractor agreements is delivery of product or service. When are they supposed to be turning over things to you? How are we going to settle disputes? How am I going to terminate this relationship? What would be a cause for termination? Refunds, returns, also the governing law. I see way too many agreements where the governing law is wrong or the jurisdiction is wrong. So that means that you're doing business in Georgia and it says in your agreement that the governing law is Utah. When you do that, you are saying that if something happens in your business, you're okay with going to court in Utah. And whatever Utah says, whether it's favorable to you or not, you're okay with doing that. You're cool with going over there. Okay. All right. So again, and in regard to employee relationships, this is going to be dependent on they're economically dependent on you as the employer. They're going to work for only you. You're going to give them their hours, their training, they're under your control. There's going to be a real contract in place. So this is different from our independent contractors, right? So these are things to consider as you onboard people into your business, okay? Versus an independent contractor, they are independent of you and they know that they're just there to do that one job for you, or maybe they're there for a couple of months, right? They're going to set their own hours. You're probably not as involved training wise, and you're going to have specifically an independent contractor agreement, okay? Things to consider as we're forming our business. We also need to look at our agreements and how we onboard people into our company to ensure that you are protected, okay? Okay, so respondeat superior says that an employer can be liable for the negligent acts committed by its employees while they're in the course and scope of their employment. So this is important because as you're hiring people, you're responsible for what it is that they do when they work for you. So we really want to define what kind of work they're doing, how much you're responsible, what's the relationship, what's the course and scope of their employment, okay? All right, you may want to consider a non-disclosure agreement, right? So this is going to protect the business and trade secrets. This is going to specifically define terms of confidentiality, indicate consequences of breaching confidentiality, and it's got to be specific as to the terms, duration, and location for the court enforcement. So non-disclosure agreements are really important, especially as your business grows. Maybe you want to be particular about your processes in your business. All of this should be in an agreement. So as you're onboarding people, you're presenting them with an employment agreement, an independent contractor agreement, non-disclosure agreement. It's going to sound like you got a lot of agreements here, but I would rather you have them in place and you be upfront about what it is that your expectation is than for you to not have it and then it turns into a legal issue. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple tips for compliance. So as you look at your company, remember you guys can get the business formation checklist that literally allows you to go through your business and audit it. And then of course, I'm available if you have questions. But number one, we want to register our business with the Secretary of State, okay, and follow your city's compliance. Number two, we want to create, open, and use a business bank account for all of our transactions, right? And opening a business bank account, we've got to be a formed entity, right? We need to have our EIN number. A lot of businesses are functioning and you don't even have your EIN number. You did the LLC, but you forgot the rest of the steps. The appropriate contracts that we just went over, right? Those were just a few. We still got our other agreements for buying and selling property. So we want to get all of this stuff done before we're in the situation, because when you're in the situation, you can't really think straight. So you want to make sure you do it, you know, when you're calm and you're able to, you know, pass it over to an attorney, okay? Same thing with your website, right? You want to have a legally compliant website. We're not going to go into that too much today, but you want to have your website audited by an attorney as well, like looking through to make sure, do you have a privacy policy? Do you have terms and conditions? Do you have disclaimers on your website? All of this is important for real estate professionals, for professionals in general, because that can turn into a legal issue in your business and you didn't even realize it, right? So this is the value of talking to an attorney as you launch your business, or even if you're currently doing business, just doing a legal audit just to make sure you're doing things correctly, because you may have some habits that you didn't even know were an issue, right? All right, so let's jump into some questions. I see the chat kind of going off. If you guys have questions about anything that I covered, I'm jumping over to the chat now.
Okay, are you going to go through it or you'll need help?
Either or, and then I was just gonna say a couple more things and I'm gonna put my info up here, but we can, while we're doing questions, so y'all can screenshot and reach out to me, okay? But just so you know, our services as a company, Law Clerk on Demand does your real estate lead list. My firm does contract review, business formation, trademark, copyright, you name it, legal work for investors. So if you guys want to reach me, this is how you'll reach out to me, okay? And my Instagram, I'm going to change this and reshare it. But yes, ready for question. I'm going to unshare for a second.
And I was going to say, you can find her. Oh, I've been pinned here. You can find her also in the private Facebook group for REI USA. She's there too, so she'll answer questions through the group as well. Okay, we have, can you be an S election and go back down to a regular LLC? I had flips, but want to turn into something more passive other than on taxes. Is there something else I would lose?
Okay, so you're saying you're currently being taxed as an S Corp and you want to go back to, and hold on, I'm going to reshare my, I just want to make sure you guys can find my, my Instagram. Okay, there we go. So I think that's a question for your CPA, because if you made the S Corp election, I think that's what you're saying. You talked to your CPA helped you do the S Corp form, and now you want to change that to possibly like a C Corp. Then I think you need to make an appointment with your CPA to ask them if that's appropriate based on the amount of money your business is making right now.
Yeah, but I think once you make it an S election, you can't go back. So you'll just start another company. You should really have passive and you know, active separate. Two different companies. All right. Okay. I mean, we have a lot of companies as an investor, just so everybody knows, like we have a lot of companies that because we separate everything out, you know, we don't want everything mixed up and stuff, you know, just for liability purposes. Okay, all panelists. Okay, I have a lease agreements on my properties with my tenants with my personal name as landlord. My properties are in my personal name. We have an LLC and an EIN, but haven't bought or titled our properties into it. Do we still need to have the lease contract be our LLC instead of us personally?
I think that question is a little bit loaded, so I would want to talk to you one-on-one about this and look at how you structure things, because even as I answer this, I literally need to see things before I give legal advice. But I'm going to say that as you're doing businesses, as you do agreements, leases, etc., they should be with your business, not you personally, because when you sign personally with no LLC, no business indicated, you're saying I'm personally responsible for anything that happens. And we never want to be in that situation. So you may need to do some things structure wise to make your LLC own property, etc. So I would say, let's talk about it. Let me walk through what you have done thus far and then see how we can structure it so that your business is the one responsible in entering agreements with these people.
Okay. Somebody says I have a registered agent in Virginia, but the SEC put my address in there on their website, even if my business address is different.
Okay, so whoever did your business formation, I'm not sure if you did it or if a company did it, but I think this is why it's really important to hire an attorney to do it for you so that you can say things like that. Like, I don't want to have my personal information on the website, et cetera, because we're going to ask you those questions. And then and I'm not sure if you're saying you're your registered agent, but if whatever it is, you want to be real careful with the addresses. Try to have that be a corporation that is being your registered agent, because it's a really cheap service to get, and then everything will go to that service and they'll like email you to say it. Then also your business address, especially if you want to be in position for funding and things like that, you want to just go ahead and invest in a business address. And your business address, you can actually get relatively cheaply. You don't even have to get like a brick and mortar business, like where you're actually in the office all the time. You can just get like a virtual address, but the company is a brick and mortar. So there's companies where you pay like a fraction of the cost to rent an office, and they'll collect all your mail for you, and they like send you an email.
Okay, do I need a separate LLC for every property that I own?
Okay, so I figured that we were gonna get there. So what I will say is, this depends on your situation, right? And I think what Stacy can weigh in on this too. But I think that you can do a structure, which we talk about a lot in our community, right? Where you have the holding company and you have several different LLCs for each property, right? And some people do that for asset protection. To make sure all their properties aren't in one LLC, because if you're sued, they're going to consider every property under that LLC to be an asset. So you may decide to do a structure where you're a holding company, you have a holding company and you have all these LLCs that are underneath it. Another option is to do a trust for every single property, right? But there are also some investors that are just not there yet where that particular strategy is too early to even think about that. But I'm going to throw it over to Stacy because that's what it means legally. But strategy wise, Stacy, what do you think?
Well, I mean, what you need to do is, like what my accountant says is don't have any, only have up to $1 million in one company. Really of assets in a company. So we just have a whole bunch of different property. Sorry, a whole bunch of different companies. And we use land trusts. And so what you want to do is really educate yourself. If you don't have any properties at all, this is like high level, right? So I didn't even know I should be getting into this until my accountant was like, Stacy, you can't own 30 properties in the same company. And I was like, you can? He's like, no. He's like, you need to start educating yourself on estate planning, right? So that's estate planning is what that is. And that's like really educating yourself on asset protection. And there's a point you're going to get in your real estate investing career. Like you're going to get to a point where you're like, you know what? I own a lot of properties now. Like I should really start be thinking about what I'm going to be doing, how to protect myself on all this. And there's some great, great teachers out there. In fact, Don Heyer is one of the teachers. He doesn't teach for REI USA, but you can always Google him. He's one of our coaches. Hyre is how you spell his last name. And in fact, I do have a couple of his courses, and that he left behind when he came to speak for me once. And so I was thinking about doing some sort of a contest to really kind of, I was going to give these out, just give these out for free. So so I talked to Christy about this actually yesterday. We're going to come up with some sort of a contest for that. So just stay tuned for all members. What we'll do is we'll come up with something and then you could do his course for free. It's Don Heyer, and his courses are very expensive. Just be aware, because he's also an attorney, just like Deonna, right? So his courses are expensive because he's going to give you the good stuff. But I was thinking about doing something for free, but yeah, what we do is we do what's called asset protection, and we educate ourselves on estate planning. And this is something that once you start owning a couple of properties, you start thinking about this. But in the beginning, all right, just do what Deonna says. Form an LLC or an S Corp, depending on what you're going to do, and then get out there and do some marketing. What do you think, Deonna?
Oh, yes, I agree. Just don't over analyze it. I think that just form an entity. Don't try to go around it. I see the insurance question. I think that you need to form an entity. That's what I think. But if you want to reach out to me to like assess your situation, I'm happy to do that. But that's my opinion, generally. So don't shortcut it. Is it good to set up in Nevada or Wyoming and then foreign file in the states we're doing business in? If yes, is Nevada or Wyoming better? I think it depends on your situation. I've helped people do the Wyoming holding company like structure where you're trying to form in Wyoming. You definitely need an entity. So what she's asking about is having a holding company in one state and then having a foreign entity in the states that you're doing business in. I think you definitely need an entity in the states that you're doing business in. Ideally, I'm going to say form your entity like where you're investing in real estate, like period. But if you have a specific reason for forming in another state, that's fine. Just make sure that you talk that out with an attorney and with your tax professional before you just do it based off of what you read on a blog. So I can't answer which is better because it's going to depend on what you tell me, like when we talk. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to listen to your situation and what your strategy is, and then create and structure your business based on what we discuss.
Mhm. And just so everybody knows, over the years, and you know, all the other teachers, you know, maybe tomorrow, if you guys remind us, we can ask them and weigh on it. But I own companies in Nevada, Wyoming, Georgia, and Delaware. All right. And so, you know, over the course of the last 10 years, like we just, you know, you know, form companies in different, you know, different states, just because we want to diversify, really. But Wyoming is like the cheapest, you know, so like I like Wyoming because it's so cheap. Nevada's kind of expensive, you know, so also you have to look at the prices too of everything, especially the yearly prices. It's kind of up there.
Right. And I think you have to, I think that you have to be careful with the watered down advice from someone else, because if you say, hey, I'm going to go to Nevada because I went to a seminar and they said Nevada was great, and I mean, and then that person leaves out, you know, how much your filing fee is, or that you're paying double filing fees. Like, this is why we can't just have this conversation based off of investors talking to each other. You know,
yeah, I think that's good. With that. Talk to Deonna, I think, is the best thing, or talk to an attorney, you know, just talk to an attorney that understands what we're doing, like Deonna or like John Heyer or somebody like this, and just get their opinion, you know. Okay, and then also we have something here. It says, this is a long one. Oh my gosh, we're getting the whole book here. On a recent webinar, and I can't remember if the speaker was John Heyer, the speaker expressed concerns about people creating limited liability companies together. He suggested that each person create his own LLC to do deals together. I believe the main concerns were that one member could obligate all the other members, and that untangling the LLC could create some problems, including ongoing financial obligations. From personal experience, a business entity of mine formed an LLC has borne all the financial obligations, so the LLC won't default on its remaining financial obligations. I don't think that I would want to do another LLC with somebody else. Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Honestly, I've partnered and not partnered, and partnering is not for the faint of heart. You know, so you just have to really, truly, if you're going to partner with somebody, just, you know, ask yourself, like, do I want to be married to this person? Right? Because essentially that's really what it is, you know, so it's got to be strong.
What I will say is, you know, when you're considering partnerships, I can't speak to that other person. I have no idea what that's about. But what I will say is, when you are doing deals with another person, right? Because this is the situation, you want a JV with somebody, there should be 2 LLCs listed. If you guys are creating an LLC together because like Stacey said, you're married, you're going to do business together forever, fine, right? But I would recommend that each of you have an attorney look at how you're structuring this, because I'm either going to represent one person or I'm going to represent the LLC. Or like, you want to be very clear in who that attorney represents when they're doing all of your paperwork. There's nothing wrong with investing in some money, a couple $100, just to say, hey, can you look at what I'm creating in regard to what's important to me and my protection, versus just using one attorney and the attorney is just doing the formation and creating everything, but you're not really asking questions on your behalf. It can get messy if the business is trying to dissolve or you guys fall out for some reason and you don't have anyone representing you, right? And that happens more often than not. So I would say make an investment and have a relationship with an attorney that represents you, and like everything that you do, I'm always considering your organization, what the concerns are for you, right? So for example, if Stacey has a question, I'm going to answer it in Stacey's best interest, not a million people, right? So even if she does business with somebody, Stacey's going to ask me, well, Deonna, is this favorable to me? And I think that's really important, to just have attorneys that you just call and say, look at this, is this doing what I think that it's doing, right?
Right, good. We had a couple questions in the Q&A. I wanted to make sure that they were answered before we move to Kenneth. I have a couple of LLCs, but I have also just recently obtained my real estate license in New Mexico. I'm functioning as an independent contractor for my brokerage. Should I have an LLC for my realtor activities?
I think realtors should have LLCs. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anybody that's accepting money, if somebody's putting a check in your hands for doing business, that should be going to your LLC. And somebody asked me in the chat if I set up LLCs. Yes, all the time. So you just reach out and let us know. The way it works is you just talk to me and we let me know what you're trying to do, and then we'll form everything for you.
Cool. Also, is it good to set up in Nevada or Wyoming and then foreign file in the states we're doing business? Oh yeah, she asked that already. So we don't know. Both of them, either of them. And then Deonna, it says, hi, Deonna. So she said hi to you. And then followed by, followed your bit.ly link for the checklist button. But the button, I want this for the download, is not working.
Okay, so just email me if anybody has any issues getting to it. This email address right here, admin@Law Clerk on Demand, and we'll shoot it right over to you. Or go to my Instagram, which is right here, Deonna Britt Law. I switched that out. So Deonna Britt Law, and click the link in my bio that says Business Formation Checklist. Actually, the fastest way to get it is go to Deonna Britt Law on Instagram, and that will take, and then click the link in my bio, and it literally says grab Business Formation Checklist.
Okay. All right. And then also before Deonna leaves, tell everybody about Clubhouse.
Yes, so Clubhouse is life, it's a great way to talk to me like every single day. I'm typically on a stage. I own the largest real estate club on Clubhouse called the Real Estate Talk Club. So if you guys want to get access to real estate information, you can jump on Clubhouse and talk to me there. We have a REI USA night, which is Tuesdays, the first Tuesday of every month. We have one of our amazing speakers come on and teach on REI USA. So that's Tuesdays, the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30. And you can hear from the teachers, hear more about REI USA. And then of course, I'm active on there literally every single day. There's a room about a different topic every single day. We're up to like 78,000 followers.